The Nanda dynasty, once a formidable force ruling over much of the Indian subcontinent in the 5th and 4th centuries BCE, had descended into disarray. Wealth that once brought glory now bred corruption and arrogance. Dhana Nanda, the last of the Nanda kings, lived up to his name, Dhana, meaning wealthy, but this wealth had turned into a yoke for his subjects. Under his rule, heavy taxation crushed the commoners, while his mismanagement left even the nobility seething with discontent. Among the echoes of despair, a young scholar named Chanakya emerged from the hallowed halls of the University of Taxila. A brilliant mind wrapped in an unassuming and peculiar exterior, Chanakya was already well known in scholarly circles for his sharp intellect and ruthless logic. However, destiny would pit him against Dhana Nanda in a way that would forever alter the course of history. It was on a sweltering summer morning when Chanakya arrived at Dhana Nanda's court for an almsgiving ceremony. Though still young, Chanakya's appearance was unconventional. Born with canine teeth, a rare occurrence, it had been foretold that he was destined for greatness, perhaps even kingship. Yet his mother, fearful of losing her son to ambition, implored him to renounce such a fate. To allay her concerns, Chanakya had broken his own teeth, leaving his face permanently disfigured. Adding to his awkward gait from a lame leg, Chanakya presented a poor, almost grotesque image to the world. At the royal court, a long line of sages, scholars, and the impoverished waited patiently for the king's largesse. Chanakya, though dressed humbly, carried himself with dignity. But when Dhana Nanda's eyes fell upon him, the king recoiled in visible disgust. "Who is this creature?" Dhana Nanda scoffed, his voice dripping with scorn. "A face as twisted as his fate, no doubt. Guards, remove him from my sight. I shall not have my day sullied by such ugliness." The entire court fell silent. Chanakya, stunned and humiliated, stood frozen for a moment. The insult was not merely to his appearance but to his very soul, his intellect and learning dismissed by a ruler who judged men by their faces. Anger flared in his eyes. As the guards approached, Chanakya straightened his back, raised his voice, and spoke in a calm yet thunderous tone. "You dare mock a man not by his deeds but by his appearance, King Dhana Nanda? Mark my words, your arrogance will be your undoing. I curse you and your throne. The very ground beneath your palace will quake, and you will fall, never to rise again." Dhana Nanda, incensed at the audacity of the scholar, barked orders to arrest him. But Chanakya, swift in thought and action, escaped before the guards could lay hands on him. He vanished into the dense jungles beyond the capital, his heart ablaze with vengeance. From that day forward, Chanakya vowed to destroy Dhana Nanda and the dynasty he represented. Sitting beneath a banyan tree deep in the forest, he began plotting. To him, Dhana Nanda's misrule was proof that the throne belonged not to the wealthy but to the wise and capable. If no such ruler existed, he would make one. Chanakya set out to find a worthy successor to depose Dhana Nanda. Among the many prospects he considered, including Dhana Nanda's own son Pabada, none impressed him fully. But fate intervened when he stumbled upon a spirited 10-year-old boy named Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta was a farmhand, an orphan, bright-eyed, and bursting with energy. Chanakya saw something remarkable in the boy, a latent potential waiting to be molded into greatness. He approached Chandragupta's guardians and took the boy under his wing. Over the following years, Chanakya trained Chandragupta in politics, warfare, and statecraft. The boy learned quickly, mastering every lesson with the enthusiasm of a warrior and the intellect of a sage. "Patience, Chandragupta," Chanakya would remind him. "A lion does not roar until the hunt has begun." During this period, the world beyond the Nanda Empire was in turmoil. Alexander the Great had reached the gates of India, his army cutting through kingdoms like a blade through silk. But even Alexander's forces hesitated upon seeing the might of the Nanda Empire, a colossal force of 200,000 infantry, 20,000 cavalry, and thousands of war elephants. On Chanakya's advice, Chandragupta ventured into the northwest territories, areas weakened by Alexander's campaigns. Some say Chandragupta even met Alexander and served in his army briefly, learning the tactics of Greek warfare. By the time Alexander's empire fractured after his death, Chandragupta had grown into a formidable leader, securing small territories one by one. With a loyal band of soldiers and spies, he began building his power base under Chanakya's watchful eye. Years passed, and the time for retribution drew near. Chanakya's spies infiltrated Dhana Nanda's court, sowing seeds of discord and dissent among the king's ministers. Alliances were broken. Secrets were leaked. Rumors spread like wildfire, weakening Dhana Nanda's hold on the throne. Chandragupta launched his first attack on the capital, but the young commander underestimated the strength of the Nanda army and was forced to retreat. Chanakya, however, was undeterred. "Defeat is but a lesson, Chandragupta," he said. "The tree that bends in the storm survives to grow stronger." Months later, after gathering reinforcements and refining their strategies, Chandragupta struck again. This time, through a combination of espionage, political manipulation, and battlefield brilliance, Dhana Nanda's forces crumbled. The once mighty king, who had mocked Chanakya years before, now stood powerless as his empire collapsed around him. In 321 BCE, Chandragupta Maurya ascended the throne, founding the Maurya Empire, the largest and most powerful empire the region had ever seen. At his side stood Chanakya, now known as Kautilya or Vishnugupta, the man whose cunning and determination had turned a 10-year-old orphan into an emperor. As Dhana Nanda vanished into obscurity, Chanakya's revenge was complete. His mother's fears had proven unfounded, for Chanakya never sought power for himself. His true ambition had always been the welfare of the land, a land freed from tyranny, where wisdom and justice reigned supreme. Years later, when asked about his triumph, Chanakya smiled faintly and said, "A king's arrogance is his greatest weakness. But the strength of a man lies not in his appearance, but in his mind. Remember that." Thus, the scholar who had once been insulted for his broken teeth, crooked gait, and humble attire became the architect of an empire, proving that the sharpest weapons are not swords or armies, but intellect and resolve. In the words of a famous historian, after being insulted and thrown out, Chanakya goes and finds a 10-year-old orphan farmhand called Chandragupta, and 9 years later turns him into the first emperor of the largest empire the region had ever seen. Not for nothing is it said that truth is stranger than fiction.